It's just in my head.
Well, I go to America about, it seems to be about once a year. It's called It Ain't What You Do, It's What It Does to You. I have not bummed across America with only $1 to spare, one pair of busted Levi's and a Bowie knife. I have lived with thieves in Manchester. I have not padded through the Taj Mahal, barefoot, listening to the space between each footfall picking up and putting down its print against the marble floor. I have not toyed with a parachute cord while perched on the lip of a light aircraft, but I held the wobbly head of a boy at the day centre and stroked his fat hands. And I guessed that the tightness in the throat and the tiny cascading sensation somewhere inside us are both part of that sense of something else. That feeling, I mean. The first bit's set on the Westman Islands, which is to the southwest of Iceland. From there, the coach made its way to the cliff tops, and the tour guide produced a large box from under the back seat containing at least 24 puffin chicks. She explained that the juvenile puffins are often reluctant to fly, and to give Mother Nature a helping hand, the good people of the islands round up the stray birds, point them in the direction of the sea, and hurl them into the air. Peterson selected a bird from the box and, cupping it gently in his hand, strolled purposefully over to the cliff edge and tossed it into the warm thermals rising from the water, only to see it plunge 50 feet without even flapping its wings and come to an abrupt halt on the rocks below. Not to be put off by the stunned silence of other tourists and the sobbing of their children, he recruited yet another chick from the batch, and this time threw it higher and further, hoping it might catch the breeze and break into flight. This time the bird twirled downwards like a seed propeller or a disabled helicopter, then nose-dived into the ocean, leaving 2 or 3 bubbles and a handful of feathers at its point of entry. 10 minutes later, the bird still hadn't surfaced, and Peterson returned to the bus, sitting right at the back, well away from the whispers and withering looks of the other passengers. This kind of follows on, but it's on a different day. At the food tasting session... Oh, you're a vegetarian, aren't you, John?
Yeah, I am, but I'm not. I'm not so militant that I get up and leave.
Things up. No. Okay. At the food tasting session back at Reykjavik's Búmannsklukan restaurant, head chef Matthias swept into the upstairs lounge with an assortment of national dishes and local delicacies, none of them instantly recognisable. Having drawn the short straw, Mr. Jameson removed a cocktail stick from a cube of calf's head, passed it carefully from one side of his mouth to the other. Once he had satisfied himself that it was free from eyelashes and teeth, he reported a not unpleasant taste and helped himself to another lump. Mr. Peterson opted for what looked like a slice of ham and had just popped it into his mouth when Matthias finally translated it as womb of lamb. Although Peterson couldn't consider himself a vegetarian, he realised at this point that his appetite for animals was generally limited to the outer 2 or 3 inches of a beast, and even if he had eaten some of the more abstract inner organs during the course of his life, he drew the line at a creature's gynecological equipment. He swallowed it without chewing, but the thought of it stayed with him for much of the afternoon. Next came the braised puffin, which both men sampled and were broadly in favour of. It was a comfort for Peterson to think that the birds he had hurled to their death only days before might not have died in vain, but Jameson had to wonder about the attitude of a nation that ate one of its national symbols. Imagine tucking into topside of bulldog back at home, or wandering into American diner and ordering a bald eagle burger. Last up was a dried catfish cut into strips, hung out on frames and left to cure in the freezing wind. Its texture was somewhere between insole and medium density fiberboard, but once broken down, its flavour was that of any other fish left out on a washing line for 2 years before being passed through an industrial mangle. They thanked Matthias for an extraordinary culinary experience, pocketed a fistful of toothpicks, and set out through the streets of the city in search of fruit and vegetables.
How's it going, gang? 10 minutes after 9 o'clock. Colin Dale in for Colin Faver. We had some very unfortunate news about Colin Faver this week. Over the weekend, we hear Colin was involved in a car smash in Germany, and so Colin's going to be away for the next few weeks. And as you can imagine, our thoughts and love go out to him. So Colin, get well soon, my man. Many thanks to Steve Jackson for the past 2 hours. London's longest running house music show, The House that Jack Built Next. Back next Tuesday night in between 7 and 9, don't miss that. Alternatively, Steve back on the radio tomorrow morning in between 10 and 1 o'clock. Lots of good sounds tonight, which include the purveyors of fine funk, Space DJs, Drexia from Detroit, Out of the Blue, Ian Pooley from Germany, and we mix up the styles as per usual. Tech funk, deep and dub house, electro, a touch of old school, and a few cuts that can't be categorized. The Abstract Dance on Kiss through till 11. Turn it up. Way Out sounds for London.
Kiss 100% stamina. Nobody can funk for longer. Nobody.
Tuesday night sound of Kiss 100 FM, 20 after 9. Colin Dale in for Colin Faver, playing dance music through till 11 o'clock tonight. And we had two back-to-back there. Last off from 1989 on Trax Records from Chicago, Virgo 4 and In a Vision. And before that, brand new, due very soon from New York Connection. That was called Bless the Funk. Staying with the new sounds, this is due soon on Primate Records from X-Bands. This is called First Sign. Outsider on the remix there. That's a brand new promo on Primate Records UK, Expanse and First Sign. Play that one for all the crew at Future Tracks in London, especially Brenda Russell, Colette, Luke, Paul and also Nikki Tracks. And we'll be back after a short commercial break with a brand new house sound of Cologne, Germany. Keep it Kiss 100.
You only get one chance in life. If you're a singer, a group, songwriter, producer, or DJ in the dance music field, grab a pen. Your chance is coming. Life isn't a rehearsal.
Get fit, make new friends, learn new skills and get paid for it with the volunteer soldiers of London's Territorial Army. Come and meet the TA at our open day on Saturday the 26th of October at the Duke of York's HQ, 5 minutes from Sloane Square Tube. For details, call 0171 414 5555. That's 0171 414 5555.
Claire from Catford writes, Dear Donna, when I have my period, I simply can't get my hair to behave. I can't have people thinking my hairdressing standards are slipping. Can Kotex help? Of course, Kotex can't turn a bad hair day into a good one, but it can give you its Kotex Ultra Towel. It's incredibly thin, and with the Kotex Stay Dry system, no other Ultra protects you better. Right now at Safeway, you can buy 3 packs of Kotex for the price of 2. Then invest your savings in a floppy hat to keep your wayward locks in check.
You only get one chance in life. These artists, all recorded on labels for which one man had A&R selection responsibility. He is a legend in dance music. That same man is now looking for fresh new talent. If you're a singer, a group, a musician, songwriter, producer, or DJ in the dance music field, or if you own a label or production house, your chance is here. Call free on 0500 666666. Life isn't a rehearsal. 0500 666666.
Kiss 100, Kiss 100, Kiss 100.
Kiss 100, doing the do, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, spreading the dance music to London and surrounding suburbs. Doing it just the way you like it. Colin Dale through till 11 tonight, and don't forget, the dance music continues into the small wee hours tonight. Angie D, 11 through till 1. And then we kick up the BPMs in between 1 and 4 with Tony DeVee. In the background, brand new on Container Records from Frankfurt, Germany. That's called Pitchwork P15. And staying with the sounds of Germany, this is brand new from DJ producer Ian Pooley. Watch out for this on Forcing US. bad tune. Do like that. New from Germany's Ian Pooley. That's called What's Your Number on Forcing US. Play that especially for Kimball in Surbiton. Happy birthday for yesterday. Also big shouts going out to Susie, Denny and Danny. And also big shouts going out to all the Ultimate crew at Ultimate Bass, especially Anna, Phil, Carl Cox, Charlotte, Paul and also Steve as well. Colin Darling for Colin Faver tonight. Unfortunately, in case you haven't heard already, Colin Faver was involved in a car smash in Germany over the weekend. We're not too sure of the extent of his injuries, but hopefully Colin will be back very, very soon. Lots of love and wishes going out to you, Colin. And the music keeps coming here at Kiss. high-tech future dance sound of Kiss 100 FM Tuesday night. Colin Dale in for Colin Faver. And in the background, a favourite of ours. We had that about 2 months ago as an exclusive, now out in the shops on a 4-tracker on Peace Frog Records. That's the Purveyors of Fine Funk featuring Dan Curtin. And it gives us great pleasure to say we're going to have Dan Curtin live in the studios, not this Thursday, but Thursday week. So make sure you don't miss out on that. That's on our regular Thursday night show. Thursday week, Dan Curtin joins us right here at Kiss 100. Also play that one for the guys and girls at FUNK, the Future Underground Network Connection in London. Mark and Derek at Unit 2, Sue and Anne, Leo, Godwin and also Ursula as well, all reside in Southside. We'll be back after these.
Beach, the top notch of Friday nights, happens again at the Camden Palace this Friday with quality uplifting house from the Beach residents. Graham Dole, Darren Pearce, Dave Lambert, Craig Lamette and Pele. Plus Adrian and London's up and coming playing Garage and Deep End Wine in the upstairs.
Some music there from the heart of London's techno underground. Third release from my very own Abstract Dance Records. That's Dark Star, aka Bad Brother Trevor Dale. And that's called the Afropean EP, out first week in November. A big konnichiwa and good wishes going out to Hero and also all of the Tokyo-London connection. And also shouts going out to all the crew at White Noise, especially Chris, and also Jeremy at Prime. Give me a call, my man. And unfortunately, over the past couple of weeks, we've had the closure of one or two techno clubs in London. The last was Absolute at the Coliseum. That's sadly gone. And news of another night reaches us, which is going to be disappearing very soon. Techno Prisoners has its last ever event at Cloud9 this coming Thursday night. So we would like to say thanks to everyone who came down there on a Thursday night. It is the last one this Thursday, so you do have a chance to check it out. Big shouts going out to Humphrey, Mike Tyler for all your hard work, and also Colin and Jay down at Cloud9. And if you do want to check it out this Thursday night, it's free before 11 o'clock, £5 after 11. And the night's called Techno Prisoners. Features myself, Colin Dale, Keith Fielder from Sex, Love and Motion, EJ Dubell, and also Melomaniac. And you can find Cloud9 at 67 to 68 Albert Embankment, just near Vauxhall. And like we said, so much good, fine, new techno stroke house music currently out in the shops at the moment. And we stay with a brand new, fresh UK sounds. New on Soma from the Space DJs.
freedom to dance. Respect to you, the I Beat the Massive. It's official, back to 89 now, the European Classic Party. Remember the vibe at S Paradis where we gave you 10, count 'em, 10 encores. So, one more time, back to 89 returns October 26 with an all-star DJ lineup. Back to 89, the house they left behind, only with freedom to dance. 0850 217 472.
Physical comedy, watch the Paramount channel after Nickelodeon from 7 on cable and satellite. Paramount, where every night is comedy night.
Laurent Garnier, Laboratoire Mix, the most anticipated DJ Mix album this year, out 21st October.
Force be with you, be with you, be with you. Morgan spiced people and unspiced people. How do you tell them apart? We thought we'd ask the Spice TV compere. He should know his spiced folk. He's obviously spiced. He's sipping that smooth drinking Morgan spiced. Who's this? The Spice Boys. He's spiced. Yes, you're on the ceiling. Girl on horseback spiced. Crowd watching telly unspiced. She's spiced though. Him and him. Oh, spice triplets. Oh, rename this place bar spice, spice, unspiced, spice. Oh, now looks like I've found the most spiciest spice person in the bar. That's a mirror. Get Morgan spiced.
Now, here comes the music.
The abstract dolls.
What a tune. Last up, we went right back to 1991. The sound of New York, Nervous Records. Kenny Gonzalez on the mix and production there. That was the Swing Kids. And yeah, play that specially for Simon over in Purley. I know you like your grooves just like that.
This life feels so light, I can hardly breathe, 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 I can hardly breathe.
Jade for you on your FM with Colin Dale.
Do you like that? And I can imagine that sounding seriously hot on a big club sound system. That's new on Andrew Weatherall's Audio Emissions record label. Dean Day, the artist, currently on a promo. That is hot. And you may be aware that we're currently giving away loads and loads of money here at Kiss 100 FM during Charlie Wiles' breakfast show. It's called Charlie Wiles' Kiss Cash Daily Payout, and Jamiroquai's Blow Your Mind is the playback track for Charlie Wiles' breakfast show tomorrow morning. When you hear it in full during the breakfast show, call us here at Kiss 100 on 0171 700 3100. That's 0171 700 3100. Be on Lucky Line 100, and you're that lucky instant winner to maybe your share of thousands of pounds. And then to see how much you've won, pick one of 4 envelopes marked C, A, S or H, and you get the money in the envelope, so you can't possibly lose. And if you don't get through tomorrow morning, don't forget we're doing it each weekday here at Kiss 100. Charlie Wiles' Kiss Cash Daily Payout, 6:30 through till 10. Only on Kiss 100. Just 35 minutes away from Angie D. Don't forget she's running things right here at Kiss 100 in between 11 and 1 o'clock. And in between 1 and 4, the BPMs go wild with Tony DeVee. That's how we do it here at Kiss for the next few hours. And now we move on to a record which to me sounds like the Armand Van Helden remix of Tori Amos. And it looks like this could blow up in exactly the same way. Brand new on Germany's IQ Records, The Third Room. Check the bass line on this. Kiss 100 spreading S-O-U-L, the sound of united language. That language, of course, music. We spread shamelessly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to London and the surrounding suburbs. Okay, you may have heard that artiste, producer Armando is currently in a US hospital recovering from leukemia. And so at the end, next Tuesday night, that's Tuesday the 22nd of October, there's going to be an Armando benefit party. The night's called Land of Confusion. And all the DJs on roster are going to be working for niche, no money. All their services going free of charge. And the DJs include Mr. C, Laurent Garnier, myself, Colin Dale, Darren Emerson, Carl Cox, the Chicago All-Stars, Marshall Jefferson, Tyree Cooper, and others from Chicago. And in the back room, Terry Farley, Ross Allen, Damon Havlin, the It's On crew, Jim Masters, and also all the guys and girls from Fat Cat Records. Once again, it's all for a very, very good cause. All the proceeds raised will go towards Armando's medical fees. So once again, one for your diary, next Tuesday night at the end, West Central Street in the heart of town, the Armando benefit party. And that's going to be a very, very serious party and all for a good cause as well. Runs 10 through till 4, so make sure you get there early. Next Tuesday night, the place, the end, heart of town, the Armando benefit party. And we play this one specially for Carly at Play It Again Sam, working overtime at the moment. This one's for you, my man. Play that one specially for London's underground wiggle crew, especially Gideon, Terry Francis, Nathan, and all the rest of the guys and girls. We can't forget Rebecca and also Claire as well. How you doing? A short commercial break and then we go right back in time to certainly one of the innovators of acid house music, the music of DJ Pierre, and the year, the summer of love, circa 1988. We check it just after these.
100% banker. On the Charlie Wild Breakfast Show, that's exactly what I feel like with all this money laying around here. But unlike your bank, we're giving our money away. Today it was Nathan from Bromley who will put 250 pounds to good use. You're on Lucky Line 100! Give away 1,000 yesterday. Today, 250 pounds in cash. Not bad for 2 seconds work, huh?
No, easy money.
Do you have any idea what you're going to spend it on?
The pub, I think.
And Madonna's a mommy. Her new tune is going to come out with a video of the birth called Maternal Girl. Tune in tomorrow morning for the Charlie Wild Breakfast Show for fun, fresh music, and free money on the station where music is life. Kiss 100.
Duke's So In Love With You. The European smash hit single now available in the UK. It includes mixes from Pizza Man and the massive Full Intention remix. Duke's So In Love With You. It's out now.
Arad City. Garage 6. Special guest this Saturday are Alan Russell and Rob Acterson. Admission is £10 all night. Dance floor opens at 9 and finishes at 6. Residents are Bobby and Steve, Chrissy T and Rude Boy Rupert. Gerard City this Saturday at Bar Roomba. Info on 01717340610.
Laurent Garnier, Laboratoire Mix, the most anticipated DJ Mix album this year, out 21st October.
Now, here comes the music.
We are the creator of acid music, and we're back. We walk among you, Dustin.
And that's just the way we used to do it way back when. That one goes right back to the Summer of Love, 1989. And on the mix and production there, one very, very young DJ Pierre. That's Future and The Creator. And from the music of Back in Time, we move way, way into the future. Brand new from Drexciya on Underground Resistance Records. The return of Drexciya.